On March 16, 2013, local authorities were notified of human remains located near Lake J.B. Thomas in southwest Scurry County. The remains were sent to the University of North Texas Center for Human Identification for DNA analysis. On April 26, 2013, the Scurry County District Attorney's Office received written confirmation that the remains have been positively identified as those of Hailey Dunn.
I hope that there is justice for her. I hope they find whoever did it and put them behind bars for a very long time.
Now, all signs are kind of pointing to you right now.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say about that?
I'm just going to do my best to get the focus back on Hailey and off of me.
On December 27, 2010, 13-year-old Hailey Dunn vanished from her home in Colorado City, Texas, a small town about an hour outside of Abilene. Small towns, despite their peaceful facade, are not immune to the darker aspects of human nature. When a child goes missing, the illusion of safety can shatter in an instant. Hailey's case would rip through the headlines, captivating all who laid eyes on her photo. An all-American girl, newly a teenager, whose innocent eyes and bright smile tore at their heartstrings. As time ticked by with no trace of Hailey, whispers of suspicion and corruption permeated the air. All hopes of Hailey being found alive were dashed when her remains were found over 2 years after her disappearance. And to this day, almost 15 years later, her case is still making headlines. The fight for justice in her case has become elusive and has been a lonely battle for her father, one that has required immense courage and perseverance. Just when he thought he finally had justice in his grasp, it was cruelly ripped away, leaving him feeling trapped in a web of silence and helplessness. Join us as we reveal shocking new details in Hailey's case. Her story, filled with unexpected twists and turns, has left her loved ones desperately seeking allies in their mission to spread awareness. Together, we can lift their voices and ensure Hailey's case will not be forsaken. As we respectfully recount Hailey's short life and untimely death, we will honor her memory and seek the justice she so rightly deserves. Hailey Darlene Dunn was born in Scurry County, Texas on August 28, 1997, to parents Clinton William and Billie Jean Dunn. She was their second child. They also had a son, David, who was a couple years older than Hailey. Her father, Clint, describes her as a tomboy mixed with a princess who loved sports, playing softball, basketball, and volleyball. She was a bit of a comedian, loved to read books, and was extremely smart. He recalls receiving letters from Duke University when Hailey was only in 3rd grade. They were apparently keeping an eye on her for the future as she was already reading at a 3rd grade level. She loved hanging out with her dad, watching the UFC fights, and the whole family loved playing Guitar Hero. Clint remembers how fun Hailey was, singing into the microphone and flinging the guitar around as if she was playing a real concert. Hailey's parents, Clint and Billie Jean, were married for 14 years before they divorced when Hailey was 10 years old. Clint states that Billie Jean met someone else and asked him to leave. He complied, leaving her with everything for the benefit of the kids. They mutually agreed on custody. Basically, Clint could see the kids anytime he wanted. He ended up living across the street in an apartment complex, making it easy for the kids to visit anytime. He said he trusted Billie Jean with the kids, that she had been a good mother. He said he knew her better than anyone else and never worried about their safety living in her home, until she met Sean Atkins. Billie Jean started dating Sean in 2009, a year before Hailey went missing. He soon moved into the home she shared with her kids, Hailey and David. To the outside world, the four seemingly lived a normal life, but it would later be revealed that Hailey and David may have been living amongst turmoil and chaos behind closed doors. Billie Jean admitted there was a lot of partying going on in the home with heavy use of alcohol, and some have accused both her and Sean of using illegal substances. The couple would often have explosive arguments, resulting in Billie kicking Sean out temporarily and then allowing him to move back in soon after. Their volatile relationship was well known to police after being called to the home several times for domestic disputes. Yet an arrest was never made. Law enforcement never took the time to look deeper into the situation, even though there were 2 minors living in the home. In March of 2010, police were called to the home again by both Billie and Sean. Billie reported violent threats from Sean against her, the kids, and even Clint. Sean was stating that Billie was using a mixture of medication and acting crazy. The officers who received the call were shockingly dismissive, even finding the situation funny.
I really need to file a report on somebody, and I don't have a car to get down there.
Okay, where are you at?
I'm at 1804 Chestnut.
What is your name?
Billy Dunn.
Billy Dunn. What exactly happened?
I broke up with this guy a couple of days ago, and he's a little MHMR, and he's telling me that he's going to kill me and my ex-husband, and that it's going to be remembered for a long time.
Yes, is there any way I can speak to Officer Burleson?
No, he'll be here Tuesday.
Okay, well, I got a situation on my hands. I have an ex-girlfriend who she was taking a whole bunch of Clonopin, a bunch of anxiety pills that I take. So I guess she got them from me, and she said she took a bunch of her pain pills too. And she's saying that she wants to that she don't care about life and all this bull crap, so I don't know what to do.
Okay, who are you?
Yeah. I'm her ex-boyfriend.
What is your name?
Sean Atkins.
Spell your last name, Sean.
Adkins.
Okay, and what is her name?
Billy Dunn. And right now she's over at her mother's house, Connie Ostrander's. It's, you know where that house is.
Do you know the address?
All I know is top of 17th Street.
Okay. Alright, what's the phone number for you, Sean?
It's...
Okay, and your address?
I'm not real sure about my address, but I just barely moved here.
Okay.
It's in Big Spring, Texas. I know I live on Apache Drive in Big Spring, Texas.
Okay, that'll work.
Not real sure the house number.
Apache Drive in Big Springs. Okay, and you're in Big Springs right now, and she just called you from Snyder telling you this?
We had a big blow up today, and one of the officers had to get involved in it.
In Big Springs?
Oh, no, over the telephone. And so she filed a report on me, for threats and stuff like that, which was between her brother, and myself, and now I don't know. She's just upset about it. She's just not being and stuff right now. I'm just really worried about it.
Okay. But while I got you on the phone, Sean, is your date of birth 6/30/85?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you know you got a warrant?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, let me get the officers over there and have them talk to Miss Dunn and see what's going on, okay? And then we'll have one give you a call back.
Threatening to kill her.
Damn it.
It's Billy Dunn.
Oh, God. He's been going all day. All right, I'll go up there.
Sean's volatile and aggressive behavior even spilled over, affecting Hailey's dad. Clint reported that about a year before Hailey went missing, Sean showed up at Clint's mother's house looking for Billy and, quote, started some shit with me. Clint repeatedly told him Billy wasn't there and hadn't been there. Things got heated and it led to a physical altercation. He said he called the police. After they arrived, police found a weapon in Sean's car and confiscated it. They put Sean in the back of the police car and took him away to what Clint assumed would be jail. But that's not what happened. Police took Sean to the hospital where he was treated for cuts, bruises, and a broken hand. Clint stated there was no follow-up by law enforcement, no police report or record of the incident. He felt Sean's behavior made him a threat to his family and the community, but the police decided to look the other way. What Clint didn't know at the time was this incident and the way law enforcement handled it would be foreshadowing of a horrifying nightmare that was to come. The chaos of Billie Jean and Sean's relationship had to have taken a major toll on Hailey and her brother. They were old enough to understand the toxicity of the situation, but probably felt helpless to do anything about it. The following are excerpts from the Who Killed Hailey Dunn Facebook page, a page advocating for justice ran by her father Clint and his advocate. I will link the page in the description. I highly suggest following the page to get up-to-date information on Hailey's case and to show support for her father. These conversations occurred after Hailey's mother called 911 in March 2010, where she told police that Sean was threatening to harm the family and, quote-unquote, do something the world would remember. Hailey told her grandmother Connie that she was so afraid of Sean, she had begun sleeping with a baseball bat. She asked a friend for help moving her dresser to another wall in her bedroom because Hailey told this friend Sean had drilled a peephole from the bathroom into her bedroom and was watching her. She expressed that fear to people closest to her in the weeks leading up to her disappearance, and they advised her on steps to take to protect herself. The biggest one, going to her father for help. According to Hailey's grandmother Connie Jones, Hailey wanted to stay with her dad and did, but Billie Jean threw a huge fit and Clint felt like he had to give her back. But Clint had no idea what was really going on and how terrified Hailey really was. Had he known that, he would have fought to keep her. Unfortunately, Hailey, a scared 13-year-old child, felt she shouldn't go to her daddy for help. There had already been one physical altercation between the two men, with Sean threatening Clint's life and a desperate 911 call to Colorado City Police by her mother, which was met with laughter and dismissal by the responding officers. As you can imagine, when Clint learned Hailey was terrified of Sean after her disappearance, he was beside himself with guilt. Imagine learning your child was living in fear and she was too focused on protecting you, the parent, by not coming to you for help. This is a heartbreaking burden Hailey had to bear. She was so close to her dad. By the time she was in middle school, she was walking to his house every day, sometimes for breakfast before school, and she would visit with him after school as well. I'm sure she felt safe there. I'm sure it was an escape from the nightmare she was dealing with at her mother's house. I can't imagine how terrified she was, and feeling like she needed to protect her father is absolutely crushing. Clint having to live without her knowing this is a pain I can't even imagine. On the morning of December 27th, 2010, At approximately 5:30 a.m., Sean left for his job at a manufacturing plant about 30 minutes away in Snyder, Texas. Billie Jean soon followed, leaving home around 6 a.m. for her job at Cogdale Memorial Hospital, also located in Snyder. According to Billie Jean, Hailey was asleep in her room when she left for work. It was the week between Christmas and New Year's, so there was no school. David had spent the night at a friend's house, so when Sean and Billie Jean left for work that morning, Hailey was home alone. Billie Jean assumed that when she woke up, she would go to her dad's house and spend the day there like she had done so many times before. According to Sean, he arrived at the manufacturing plant around 6 a.m., grabbed a soda out of the vending machine, and soon after got into a physical altercation with his boss, resulting in him being fired. He then left the plant, heading to his mother's house in Big Spring, about 30 minutes away, later leaving there and driving back to Colorado City just before 3 p.m. He stated that when he arrived home, Hailey was watching TV in the living room. He went back to the main bedroom, and soon after, Hailey walked in and told him she was going to her dad's for a while and then to a friend's house for a sleepover, and left. According to Hailey's brother David, he came home from his sleepover between 4 and 5 p.m. The doors were locked, which was unusual. He knocked for a while, and when no one answered the door, he climbed through a window to find Sean standing in the hallway, quote, looking like a deer in the headlights. Hailey was not home when David arrived. Later that evening, Sean picked Billie up from work. When they arrived home, Billie noticed Hailey wasn't there and asked Sean if he had seen her. He told her Hailey had left to go to her dad's, then had plans to stay the night at her friend Mary Beth's house. Billie and Sean, seemingly unbothered by Hailey's absence, went about their evening. The next morning, December 28th, there was still no sign of Hailey. Billie decided to call Mary Beth's mother, who stated they knew of no plans for a sleepover and they had not seen Hailey. According to Clint, Billie called him around noon from work, so she allegedly went to work, even though her daughter had now been missing since the day before. Anyway, she called Clint and said, "I need you to call the police and file a missing persons report on Hailey." Okay, that doesn't make any sense. Why wouldn't Billie have already called the police? But I digress. Clint said he didn't know what was going on and that Billie did. So he told her, quote unquote, "Hang up this damn phone right now and call the police as soon as we hang up." Clint waited 10 minutes and called Billie right back to make sure she called the police. Billie said she had, and she was coming home from work. Clint said he would have gladly called the police, but didn't have any details of what happened the day before. That is why he was angry and insisted Billie call immediately. The missing persons report was filed that afternoon, but instead of investigating Hailey's disappearance right away, police filed the report classing Hailey as a runaway. This decision would prove to be a huge mistake, wasting valuable time that could have been used to investigate what really happened to Hailey. Before we move on, let's talk about some of the red flags in Billie and Sean's stories so far. According to Hailey's father, Clint, Billie typically carpooled to work with a friend. She would drive to the coworker's house before her shift, leaving her vehicle there, riding with the coworker to the hospital. Clint states that during the investigation, this coworker called him, stating this was the first time Billie ever contacted her, saying she was going to drive her car directly to the hospital and would not be carpooling that day, which the coworker thought was odd. Sean stated in an interview that Billie was able to leave work early that day, so he went and picked her up.
Billie called me and told me that her relief got there and that she's going to get to leave a little early. So I was up there at the hospital in Snyder around 6 o'clock to pick her up, and then we came back.
Okay, if Billie drove to work that morning, why would Sean need to pick her up? Her car was there. If her car wasn't at the hospital, then that would mean she carpooled to work. But her coworker allegedly told Clint they did not ride together that day. Something isn't adding up with this part of the story. Sean and Billie both stated they went straight home after he picked her up, and to bed soon after. But during the investigation, bank records showed the couple stopped at 2 ATM machines, withdrawing a total of $140. When asked about this, Billy stated the money was used for gas and groceries, but law enforcement later learned the money was used for illegal substances. When law enforcement tried verifying Sean's story about his whereabouts the day Hailey went missing, they spoke with his boss at the manufacturing plant, who told them he and Sean never had an altercation. He stated Sean arrived around 6 a.m., purchased a soda, handed his boss his uniform, and walked out. When confronted with this information, Sean admitted he lied, stating he didn't want Billie Jean to find out he quit, so he made up the lie that he was fired.
Now, you just said right now that you quit your job, but originally you had said that you got in a fight with your boss and was fired from your job.
No, that was untrue too. I told investigators I quit my job, but I told Billy that I got fired because I didn't want her knowing that I quit my job. I was trying to keep it from her, but investigators found out that I didn't get fired because Billy had told them that originally, and then they brought that up to me, and I was like, yeah, I quit my job for reasons, and I just didn't tell Billy for fear of it cause a big fight, and I didn't want to ruin the peace that's been happening over the past 6 months. I just wanted to keep the peace, try to find another job, and then let her know.
Sean told investigators after he left work in Snyder at approximately 6:10 a.m., he drove straight to his mother's house in Big Spring. He wanted to use her computer to apply for unemployment benefits. There have been previous reports of cell phone pings showing Sean did not go to his mother's house immediately after leaving work. The pings reportedly indicated he went back to Colorado City after leaving work, most likely home, arriving between 6 and 7 a.m., and then arriving at his mother's home in Big Spring almost 3 hours later around 9:30 a.m. Later pings reportedly showed him in Scurry County that afternoon around 2:40 p.m., which would indicate he was lying about where he was that day. After learning law enforcement classed Hailey as a runaway, Clint was beside himself. He told police, quote, "That's not even in her vocabulary," referring to Hailey. He knew there was something more going on and insisted they investigate immediately, to no avail. He called the FBI in tears, begging them to help find his daughter, telling anyone who would listen she did not run away, but he got no response. He called news stations, pleading with them to get Hailey's story out. Clint, along with other concerned residents, were also out on foot each day searching for Hailey. I can't imagine the angst and frustration Clint must have felt during this time. He was screaming for help from those whose job it was to do just that and getting nowhere. He knew as each day passed, the chances of finding his daughter alive became less likely, and crucial evidence could be destroyed. Several days later, police reclassed Hailey's disappearance as a missing and endangered child. Her room was searched, finding everything in its place. Nothing looked disturbed. If she had planned on going for a sleepover or running away, she took nothing with her. Law enforcement brought in dogs to trace her scent. It led them to a local hotel, but stopped there. Hotel staff reported they never saw Hailey, so law enforcement moved on with the investigation. About 2 weeks later, Texas Rangers got involved in the search for Hailey, and news crews started showing up in front of Billie Jean's house. There was still no sign of Hailey, but Clint was relieved her story was getting out, and law enforcement seemed to be taking her disappearance seriously. It's been reported that neither Billy nor Sean ever participated in any of the searches for Hailey. Sean and Billie Jean raised suspicions when they hosted a New Year's Eve party only days after Hailey went missing. When asked about this by news media, Billie Jean stated it was a gathering with friends and family who came to support and comfort her, but the public didn't seem to buy into that excuse. I can't say I really do either. I mean, it was widely reported and even admitted to by Billy herself that there was a lot of partying going on in the home, including illegal substance use. To me, it's just a bad look. According to Clint, living just across the street, he watched as Billy and Sean partied through the night, saying, quote, "I don't see how you can just celebrate the new year when your daughter is missing. That should be the last thing on your mind." Both Sean and Billy were asked to take polygraph tests. They complied, but both had to retake the tests as it was determined they had both been under the influence of substances at the time. Billy denied this, stating she was on anti-anxiety medication prescribed by her doctor. Sean allegedly walked out at least twice during the testing, and on the third attempt, he walked out again, telling police he thought this was a witch hunt and they were trying to force him to admit to something he didn't do. Before walking out of the testing, while hooked up to the polygraph machine, Sean was asked by investigators where he thought Hailey might be. He responded, Scurry County. And when asked who they should be looking at as suspects, he replied, both of us. The test results for these two answers proved truthful, but Sean refused to elaborate. Other answers he gave showed deception. In January of 2011, about a month after Hailey's disappearance, law enforcement conducted a search of Billy's home and shockingly found numerous devices, including a memory stick that contained over 100,000 images of child. According to Clint, the memory stick was located in Billy's dresser drawer. They also found similar images on a computer seized from Sean's mother's house. This prompted the removal of Hailey's brother David from Billy's custody. I'm sure you're thinking at this point, someone was arrested for the child. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. When questioned about this, authorities stated there was no way to verify who downloaded the images with more than one person living in the home. It was also reported Billy had a pentagram rug in the house and brought a book she owned about witchcraft to a friend's house and asked said friend to hide it shortly after Hailey went missing. It was later turned over to the FBI. During the search of Billy's home, detectives also found hundreds of printed articles containing subject matter pertaining to deviant and serial killers. When asked about the material, Billy stated it was just subjects they were interested in, just like plenty of people are into true crime. After the child came to light, Billy kicked Sean out of the home and he seemed to go into hiding. On March 11th, 2011, police went to Billy's house with a warrant looking for him. They wanted to question him further regarding the investigation. When Billy answered the door, she stated she hadn't seen Sean and that he wasn't there. Officers entered the home using the warrant and found Sean hiding. Billy was arrested and charged with lying to law enforcement. In June of 2011, she was sentenced to a suspended 90-day sentence and a year's probation. Soon after, Billy reportedly ended her relationship with Sean and moved to another part of Texas over 200 miles away. 2 years would go by with no sign of Hailey. The searches all but came to a halt, and her case seemed to be going cold until March 16th of 2013. A man searching for arrowheads in Scurry County on the outskirts of Lake J.B. Thomas made a horrifying discovery. He found human bones and some items of clothing and quickly reported his findings to law enforcement. According to Clint, this area had been searched many times before with no sign of remains. It makes you wonder when they were placed there.
On April 26, 2013, the Scurry County District Attorney's Office received written confirmation that the remains have been positively identified as those of Hailey Dunn.
There was speculation from the day she went missing 2 days after Christmas in 2010 that the 13-year-old Colorado City teen was murdered and her body dumped near Snyder. That's because the former boyfriend of Dunn's mother, the last person to see her alive, had relatives in Scurry County.
Hailey's remains were sent to the University of North Texas for identification, and on April 26, 2013, the DA received confirmation they were the remains of Hailey Dunn. Although Hailey had been found, the case remained stalled, and no arrests were made. Hailey's remains were not released to family for 4 long years. I can't imagine the nightmare. Your daughter has been missing for years. She is finally found, and you are forced to wait 4 years to lay her to rest with no answers, no arrests, no justice. Absolutely tragic and frustrating. According to Clint, he was told he would be receiving Hailey's remains and began planning a celebration of her life and burial plans in Colorado City, where she grew up. But unfortunately, that did not happen. Hailey's remains were given to Billy, and she was laid to rest where Billy was residing over 200 miles away. Clint wasn't allowed to attend the burial and has not seen his daughter's resting place to this day. Fast forward to December 30th, 2021, almost 11 years to the day after Hailey went missing. Sean Adkins was indicted by a grand jury for her murder. He was held on $2 million bail. Billie Jean, who allegedly cut ties with Sean, released a statement on the heels of his arrest, stating, "I'm not surprised. I thank God that person has been apprehended and is going to pay for what he did here on earth." Clint also released a statement saying, "Right now there are no words to define how I feel. We will let the trial speak the truth. Thank you to everyone who searched for Hailey and those who fought tirelessly for an arrest. Hopefully true justice will come in the courtroom." 2 years later, in June of 2023, the unthinkable happened. Sean was released from jail. The state filed a motion to dismiss without prejudice, which means they can charge Sean again at any time in the future. The motion to dismiss was filed June 26, 2023, and Sean was released the following day. Prior to the motion being released to the public, many details of the investigation were unknown. A lot was revealed in the motion, so I feel it's important to read it in its entirety to gain a better understanding of where the case stands currently. Pursuant to the state's duty to see that justice is done, the prosecution in this case believes that further investigation is needed for the state to proceed to trial. To be clear, the prosecution views Sean Casey Adkins as the primary suspect in the Hailey Dunn murder on or about December 27, 2010 in Mitchell County, Texas. However, additional work must be done before the case can proceed to a jury trial. This is a complex, circumstantial case. The state of Texas has spent the last year collecting, organizing, and reviewing the voluminous amount of discovery in this case. Moreover, the state has met with and interviewed nearly 50 witnesses associated with this case. Through the course of its preparation and reviewing the discovery currently available, it is clear that additional time is needed to fully investigate the veracity of all the issues that have arisen during the course of this case and during trial preparation. A summary of some, but not all, of the issues are as follows. The state has provided defendant, by and through his attorney, a 16-page comprehensive Brady notice detailing potential exculpatory impeachment and mitigating evidence in this case. That Brady notice explains in greater detail the information contained in this motion. The investigation of Hailey Dunn's murder spanned over a decade and involved an array of law enforcement agencies. Now, I'm not going to read all of the agencies. There's a lot. As I keep going, it makes me tongue-tied. So you get it. There was a lot of agencies involved in the investigation. During the investigation, hundreds of tips, leads, and potential alternate suspects were provided to law enforcement. Some of these tips and leads were investigated and cleared. However, many of the tips and leads were not properly vetted, investigated, or cleared. This is important in any criminal case, but it's critical in a case such as this that relies exclusively on circumstantial evidence. One of the critical pieces of evidence for the state involved a soil analysis conducted by a soil expert for the state of Texas. During the initial investigation surrounding Hailey Dunn's disappearance, law enforcement collected a pair of work boots belonging to the defendant. Hailey Dunn's remains were discovered in Scurry County, Texas in 2013. This expert used a testing method known as near-infrared spectroscopy, or NIRS, in her analysis. Using NIRS, the expert concluded that soil samples obtained from the defendant's boots had a high degree of chemical similarity with soil samples collected from the remains site. Prior to the expert conducting a soil analysis, these same soil samples had been sent to the FBI crime lab in Quantico, Virginia, using a methodology peer-reviewed and recognized by the geological forensic science community. The FBI forensic scientists determined that the soil sample from the defendant's boots did not match the soil samples collected near Hailey's remains. During the course of preparing this case for trial, the state of Texas sought out and met with the FBI crime laboratory and asked them to review the soil expert's report. After the FBI analyzed and reviewed the soil expert's report, the state of Texas met with the FBI and learned that NIRS is not a testing methodology sanctioned by the forensic science community for soil analysis. Moreover, in the context of forensic science, NIRS has not been peer-reviewed, subject to rigorous study, nor has it previously been used to forensically test soil in the manner that was done in this case. The FBI stands by their original testing and does not believe that the testing done by the soil expert should be relied upon in a criminal trial. The Forensic Anthropology Report. Hailey Dunn's remains were recovered in March 2013 and sent to the University of North Texas, where they were analyzed by a forensic anthropologist. The forensic anthropologist observed blunt force injuries to Hailey Dunn's and determined that the injuries were perimortem, meaning they were inflicted at or near the time of her death. These injuries are catastrophic and likely would have resulted in significant bleeding. While multiple searches of the house were conducted by law enforcement, the state of Texas is not aware of any forensic testing that was done in the house in the immediate aftermath of Hailey's disappearance on December 27, 2010. In addition, multiple searches of the vehicle at issue in this case, as well as the location of Hailey Dunn's remains, were conducted by law enforcement. As a result of those searches, some evidence was collected that was never forensically tested. Before this case proceeds to trial, that evidence should be thoroughly tested to determine if it has any probative value. Another central piece of evidence in this investigation and case involves cell records and cell tower records for the defendant and Hailey Dunn. Those cell tower records were analyzed by a cell phone analyst with the FBI Cellular Analysis Survey Team, or CAST. Among other things, the records show that on December 27, 2010, Hailey Dunn's cell phone sent an outgoing text message at 2:16 p.m. and another at 2:27 p.m. During this same time, the defendant's cell connected to a tower in Big Spring, Texas, at 1:53 p.m. and 2:40 p.m. Moreover, the records reveal that the defendant placed an outgoing call at 2:56 p.m. on December 27, 2010 that connected to a cell tower along I-20 east of Big Spring but west of Colorado City. The records also show that 1 minute later, an incoming call to Hailey Dunn's cell phone connected to a cell tower in Colorado City, Texas. These two facts taken together, while not conclusive, lend support to the proposition that Hailey Dunn may have been alive prior to 2:57 p.m. on December 27, 2010. The evening of December 26, 2010, Hailey Dunn's brother spent the night with two friends. He returned home on December 27, 2010 at approximately 5 p.m. Upon his arrival, he saw and spoke with the defendant. Hailey Dunn was not there. At approximately 6 p.m., the defendant left the home to pick up Hailey Dunn's mother from work in Snyder, Texas. The defendant was not alone again until the following morning. Viewing the evidence collectively, if Hailey was alive when the defendant arrived back at the house, he would have been alone with Hailey for at most approximately 2 hours, from approximately 3 p.m. to approximately 5 p.m. This means that the defendant would have had to kill her, clean up blood or any other incriminating evidence in the home, and hide her body in a relatively short amount of time. While this is not impossible, it presents additional challenges given the preceding issues. Conclusion. This is a complex, circumstantial evidence case. There is no known direct eyewitnesses to Hailey's murder, nor is there any known current forensic science evidence directly linking Sean Adkins to her murder. In addition, Hailey Dunn's remains were not located until March of 2013. During this period, many leads and tips were provided to various law enforcement agencies. In light of the above, while the defendant remains the primary suspect, the current state of the evidence is not sufficient for the prosecution to proceed to trial. For these reasons, the prosecution believes that additional investigation is needed in this case and, as such, recommends to this honorable court that the above styled and numbered causes be dismissed, subject to refile pending further investigation. This motion has some key points I want to break down. Firstly, the soil tests. There seems to be differing opinions on whether or not Sean's work boots contained soil that matched the area Hailey's remains were found. An expert used a testing method called NIRS and concluded Sean's boots had a high degree of similarity with the site. But the FBI states their soil sample tests proved not a match. A huge discrepancy. The motion says the NIRS test is not sanctioned by the geological forensic science community, so it seems there's a battle of the tests going on. A statement made on the Who Killed Hailey Dunn Facebook page says the following. On November 27, 2018, an email was sent by our then private investigator, Erica Morse, to a Scurry County DA investigator, John McDaniel. That email requested a specific test involving diatoms, microscopic organisms inside Lake J.B. Thomas that are only found in that specific body of water. The mud on Sean's work boots would have diatoms from Lake J.B. Thomas embedded within it, since that is where he disposed of Hailey's remains. In order to test the diatoms for its own biological fingerprint, they must first be isolated, then separated from the mud itself. In May 2021, 1 month before Sean's arrest, Mitchell County DA Ricky Thompson called us to a Zoom meeting where he told us McDaniel had ordered a forensic test of the mud on his boots, and it was a 94% to 95% match for the spot where Hailey's skull was found. We specifically asked Ricky if this was the diatom test, and he said it was. After reviewing every word printed in the press regarding Sean's release and about the 2 soil tests, along with our recording of the AG's meeting last year, we discovered they made a grave mistake. It appears they did not run the diatom test we requested. The FBI and state lab ran soil tests, not diatom tests. Soil tests involving mud look for different things in that process than what we asked them to test. Simply put, we asked them to run a specific test. They didn't understand the science behind our request. McDaniel then had the state lab run a duplicate test of the one the FBI ran instead of the one we requested. As a result, there is a test that exists that, if run now, should provide a direct match to those work boots and put him behind bars immediately. We understand that they may be embarrassed by this post, but what's done is done. That error in misunderstanding the science resulted in Sean being allowed to walk out the door of the jail 3 weeks before the trial. We asked them to please put their egos aside and run the diatom test, the one we asked for 6 years ago that was never done. Now, the motion states that additional work needs to be done before the case can proceed to a jury trial. Let's hope they get the soil testing figured out and run the diatom tests that have been requested. I did a simple Google search to see if diatom testing results are admissible in court, and it's stating that they are. So that gives me some hope that if they get this done, it will help solidify the case against Sean. Now let's talk about the phone pings. According to the motion, the details provided are a summary of some, but not all of the issues. So what that's telling me is it's obviously not providing all of the evidence the state has in Hailey's case. But the pings listed in the motion seem to say that Sean would have only had 2 hours to commit the crime and clean up before Hailey's brother David arrived home at approximately 5 p.m. The phone the state refers to in the motion as Hailey's phone is reportedly Billy's cell phone. She left it at the house for the kids to use while she was at work. Evidently, according to the motion, that phone sent an outgoing text message at 2:16 p.m. and another at 2:27 p.m. It doesn't specify the subject matter of the text or who they were sent to. It's been reported in the past that a text message was sent from that phone to one of Hailey's friends, but the state doesn't confirm that in the motion. But it seems the state believes Hailey may have sent those texts, which means she may have still been alive at that time. At 2:56 p.m., Sean's phone pinged off a cell tower along I-20 East between Big Spring and Colorado City. And 1 minute later, which would be 2:57 p.m., the phone they refer to as Hailey's phone received an incoming call that connected to a tower in Colorado City. This information leads the state to believe that it's possible Hailey was still home and alive up until 2:57 p.m. on December 27th, and Sean was not at the house. So the state is saying that according to the pings, it would only leave a 2-hour window for Sean to have committed the crime. The motion also states that many of the tips and leads were not properly vetted, investigated, or cleared. It also states, which is infuriating, that while multiple searches of the house were conducted by law enforcement, the state is not aware of any forensic testing done in the home. Multiple searches of the vehicle at issue in the case were done. Some evidence was collected, but none of it was ever forensically tested. No forensic testing was done at the site of Hailey's remains either. Unbelievable. The state makes it clear Sean Adkins remains the primary suspect in Hailey's murder, but it looks like they have a lot of loose ends to tie up in order to have a chance at a conviction. As Clint has stated many times, I think the investigation into Hailey's disappearance was completely botched from the beginning, and after pouring through mountains of articles and other resources to research this case, I am going to take it a step further and say this case reeks of a cover-up. This is just my opinion, but I think the child has something to do with all of this. Maybe there are some dirty cops somehow involved with Sean and the child, or some sort of network. I don't know, but something is really off with this case. I also think Billy played a role in this, or at least covered for Sean. Why would you stay with someone who is the primary suspect in your daughter's disappearance? Why would you hide him? I think they were involved in a lot of weird shit between the drugs, child, possible witchcraft. It really makes you wonder what was going on behind closed doors. Again, These are my opinions. Everyone mentioned is presumed innocent unless convicted in a court of law. Let me read to you a few more posts from the Who Killed Hailey Dunn Facebook page that I found interesting. For years, we thought Sean Adkins was protected by the police, but could never figure out why. The more we learn, the more we realize that was probably not accurate. Sean Adkins is nothing in Colorado City, nothing in Mitchell County, nothing in Scurry or Howard. He's an inconvenient child predator who brought the spotlight to a town who never wanted it there. We have come to understand that this case brought national exposure to a region that has secrets, many secrets. That exposure made people nervous, so they needed the case to stop receiving that attention. The only parent fighting for Hailey was Clint. Make him go away and the case goes away. So they arrested him, not once, not twice, but 7 different times. He kept fighting anyway and got louder. When they couldn't shut him up, they decided to bury him financially. Not just take his home, but humiliate him in the process. Tear it down on the news so he could watch, powerless. Hit him with fines for a property he can't maintain. Then keep that property in his name to prevent him or his surviving children from being able to continue this fight. When that didn't work, they decided to bury the PI, get her fired, run her out of her home, bury her the same way they did Clint, so no one will be left to help him fight this fight. Fortunately, God and the universe intervened. Clint's refusal to give up, along with an opportunity for our team to work a trial from the inside, finally provided us the legal knowledge and know-how to recognize and understand what is really happening here. Another police corruption case taught us that this one has to be handled much differently moving forward. We will never get there without lawyers, many lawyers, a civil rights lawyer, a disability lawyer, a police corruption lawyer, and a civil attorney. These specific areas of law each focus on an aspect of this case, from the corruption at the top all the way down to how it has directly impacted Clint and his daughters. Each one will be necessary to expose these tentacles, and there is no way we can do it alone. We need your help and are ready to get to work. May 2025 finally be the year all this comes to light, that Toombs is exposed for his crimes, paving the way to the rearrest of Sean Adkins. Thank you all for being here. We have a lot of work to do. So I believe Toombs is the sheriff or was the sheriff of Colorado City at the time. Another post reads, as you can see from our earlier post today, this case may not be fully over. While we are confident that we know who took Hailey's life, there have always been lingering questions about the involvement of others. What was the real motive for her death? Was it something more sinister? Remember that witchcraft book and the pentagram rug, the hundreds of thousands of images that were never prosecuted? The unbelievable news that Sean Adkins' mom was allowed to walk into the police station, demand her computer back, and they stopped downloading that data to give it back to her on the spot. Who has that kind of pull? What really happened in the Hailey Dunn case? This case is just infuriating, and I wonder if we will ever know the entire truth as to what was really going on in that house and in that town. Let me know in the comments your opinions on this case. As the motion to dismiss stated, it is complicated and complex. I did my best to bring you as much information as I could in this video. If you would like to take a deeper dive and support Hailey's father Clint in his pursuit for justice, make sure to head over to the Who Killed Hailey Dunn Facebook page. For nearly 15 years, Hailey's father has been trapped in a relentless cycle of grief and despair, counting over 5,000 days since his daughter's life was cruelly stolen. Each day is a grueling testament to the depth of his loss, a reminder of the justice that remains painfully elusive. The initial hope that her alleged killer would face justice was cruelly dashed, leaving him to grapple with a nightmare that refuses to end. As Sean walks free, The public demands answers to a case marred by a botched investigation and suspicions of a cover-up. When a veil of secrecy and corruption are allowed to fester, no one is safe, especially our children. We refuse to let Hailey's horrific death be in vain. We stand with those who truly loved her and demand accountability. Rest in love, beautiful Hailey. We will be your voice, standing with those that love you, demanding justice in your case.